Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Toast. And as we wind down the year, which honestly is kind of hard to believe, 2024 just kind of flew by. But you know what we get to do? We get to look onward to 2025. And it already sounds like the first few months will be incredibly exciting for gamers. We can already pencil in the Nintendo Switch successor reveal for early 2025. I absolutely cannot wait for that console. But now, it also sounds like Xbox has something in store for early in the year that fans will want to tune in for. So stick around, and I'll give you the latest on that and some of my own predictions. Now, speaking of Nintendo, they just surpassed a record-breaking milestone, and we'll talk about that one as well. This is very, very impressive stuff. Let's just go ahead and jump right into things, though, starting off with a nostalgic Helldivers 2 collaboration. Yeah, check this out. I know a lot of us want to see a return for the Killzone series, and personally, I'm a part of that group. I think a new Killzone would fill a noticeable gap in PlayStation's catalog. You know, they've gone all in on third-person blockbusters, and hey, you know, those can be great and everything, but they could still use a good first-person shooter as well. And Killzone was such an iconic franchise back during the PlayStation 3 era. So I'd love to see a revival for Killzone, but sadly, doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon. However, the good news here is that the studio behind Helldivers 2 just announced a crossover with the Killzone series. You can see their announcement here, which reads, "We decided a long time ago to do crossovers only if and when they make perfect sense for the game. So in that spirit, we're hyped to announce our very first crossover, Killzone 2. Helldivers 2 x Killzone 2 belongs to a new tier of special premium content reserved for collaborations and other uniquely themed work. One plan is to offer you something distinct and special." So it actually sounds like more collaborations will be on the way. Just keep that in mind. Resistance, throwing that out there. Regardless, they said High Command informs us that beyond the Superstore content, there's also an additional Killzone 2 reward for all Helldivers depending on your success in the Galactic War. Now, honestly, I haven't really played Helldivers 2 in quite some time, but if there's anything that could draw me back in, just suck me right back into its world, this here would be it. I was a huge fan of Killzone 2 back when it first released for the PlayStation 3. And I agree with their statement. Aesthetically, Killzone seems like a perfect fit for Helldivers 2. So personally, I'm very excited to see what all they have planned for this collaboration. But unfortunately, we still don't really have a lot of information other than this image that they revealed. But I mean, hey, you know, maybe if this update puts up some good numbers, well, maybe that could speak to Sony and, you know, get the ball rolling for a new Killzone later down the road. I mean, come on, Sony. We all know you want some live service games, and right here, you know, Killzone, it's just sitting there on your lap. Come on. Okay, now we also got an update for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and what's to come next for the eventual trilogy. Some fans were wondering if Square Enix would follow a similar roadmap as they did for 7 Remake and the Yuffie episode. Could they possibly do something similar with Rebirth and maybe, you know, a Vincent episode as one such example? Well, apparently, no. They're not going to do that, and here's their reason. They said, "I had the desire to create something like Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission, but restrained it to say let's focus on the third game and deliver that as soon as we can." So there you go. And I absolutely think that this is the right call. I think most fans would much rather Part 3 sooner rather than later as opposed to another episode, which, quite honestly, doesn't really compare to the full game in terms of overall quality. I mean, the Yuffie episode was okay for what it was, but I could have done without it. I feel like they could have put some of her content into Rebirth instead, and even if it would have been a condensed version, I would have been perfectly fine with that. So I absolutely feel like Part 3 should be their top priority going forward, and based on some of their past statements, Part 3 could actually be a lot closer than what some people might expect. They'll have to upgrade its engine, and that might require a little extra work, but based on various comments that they've made, their main goal seems to be a quick development cycle, and to me, I think that's great news to hear. Okay, now let's go and look onward to 2025. I mean, looking at it right now, the first few months of the year has potential to be an incredibly exciting time for gamers. Whether you like Nintendo or Xbox, or hey, actually maybe even both, hopefully both in this case, it sounds like they both have some big plans on the way. I mean, we know for a fact that Nintendo will reveal the Switch successor. They already confirmed that. And I'm hoping is the key word here, but I'm hoping that it'll come along with a soonish release date. Rumor has that it'll be around a May or June launch. Crossing my fingers for that. I'm hoping that's true. A fall release just seems way too far away by this point. We've been waiting long enough, Nintendo. Come on. Stop dragging your feet. Let's make it happen. But regardless of what happens with all that, we're now also hearing about an Xbox showcase for January. I mean, the last few years, they've held an Xbox Developer Direct in mid to late January. In 2023, it was on the 25th, and then in 2024, it was the 18th. And both of those showcases were actually pretty good. It's basically their showcase to kind of set expectations for the rest of the year and what games they have planned. So it wouldn't necessarily be shocking to hear that they're going to do the same thing in 2025. And well, now we're hearing rumblings from a couple of well-respected insiders. Tom Warren posted this up online and said, "Feels like Microsoft has finally hit a good cadence with Xbox Game Pass releases, especially with recent drops like Indiana Jones and what's ahead in 2025. Avowed, South of Midnight, Doom, Towerborn, Fable, Outer Worlds 2, and more." That's interesting. More are coming next year. I'm also expecting an Xbox event in January. Now, to be fair here, this could simply be a prediction based on their past couple of years. Or this could also be a tease that he has some kind of inside information that leads him to believe that this will happen next month. Even more so is that Jez Corden also recently mentioned that Xbox has their own developer direct planned for Q1. And that's why they skipped out in the Game Awards and making reveals there. So if anything else, it seems like there's a fairly good chance that there will be an Xbox showcase possibly next month, and there's a lot of potential announcements that could come along with that. Again, I like that word that Tom Warren said. More. What that means, who knows? But we do know about several Xbox games that are planned for 2025. And we still need to see more gameplay, and we also need to know more about their exact release dates. We still need to see release dates for South of Midnight, Doom the Dark Ages, Towerborn, Fable, and even for the Outer Worlds 2, which now has a surprising 2025 release window. And that's a part of what these directs are designed to do. It's an early year outline for what fans should expect. So more than likely, they'll either give us a release window or an exact release date for most of these games. I would absolutely expect that type of information at the bare minimum. But again, where things could get really interesting is with some surprise game reveals. Of course, they have Activision Blizzard as a part of their team now, and we don't really know much about their pipeline of games. Could they possibly have a couple surprises planned for 2025? Maybe? Possibly? That seems fairly possible. And then there's also other Xbox studios and already announced games that we haven't seen much from in quite some time. We still don't know what Double Fine is working on as one such example. They actually seemingly teased an announcement early in this year. I was predicting them to be at their last showcase, but that never ended up happening. So maybe a surprise reveal at this next Direct. That would be pretty cool, albeit don't expect a big AAA blockbuster from them. That's really not Double Fine's jam. They're much more about small, quirky type of games. And speaking of quirky, there's also Kojima's next game, OD. It's been a little while since we've heard anything about that game, and we could possibly get some information about that sometime soon. Then there's also inXile and their next game, Clockwork Revolution. How far along is that game? And the same could also be said for State of Decay 3. For that matter, there's also been a lot of rumors about Xbox Game Studios Publishing. That's the team that partners up with third-party developers, and I mean, outside of Towerborn, it's been a little while since we've seen something from them, and we do know that they have more partners than just that. So we could see some third-party collaborations depending on how far along they're in development. Either which way, though, I mean, this could be a really exciting showcase to kickstart 2025. And again, we have some Nintendo news inbound, and there's even speculation that PlayStation is working on an event. So, hey, let's start 2025 off with some fireworks. Let's make it happen. But in the meantime, let me know what you would most like to see at this alleged Xbox Developer Direct. Now, speaking of Nintendo, though, we do need to celebrate a massive milestone for them and the Nintendo Switch. I know a lot of people have been tracking the Switch versus PlayStation 2 total units sold. Can the Switch catch up and become the best-selling console of all time? And honestly, I'm rooting for them. I mean, the PlayStation 2 was a great console, don't get me wrong, but the Switch easily, for me, goes up there with some of my favorite consoles ever made. I just think that Nintendo has been brilliant this generation, whether that be because of the Switch's unique design or because of its stellar library of exclusive games. I just think that the Switch is an amazing console, so I'm rooting for it. And at the very least here, according to Circana's data, the Switch just surpassed the PlayStation 2 in the United States. Now, it still has 14 million more to go to reach the PlayStation 2 worldwide. That gap will be smaller after the holiday, but it's still going to be a tough task for them, especially given that this will be its last holiday all by itself. Surely, the Switch successor will impact it pretty significantly going forward. But what I expect will happen here is that Nintendo will continue to sell the current Switch well beyond the release of its successor. They'll utilize it as a much more budget-friendly option. And, if they slash its prices, that'll also go a long way to extend its life even further. I mean, as crazy as it is, it's been 7 years, and Nintendo has never once slashed the Switch's prices. So that would be a huge help for a console on its way out. But for now, big congrats to Nintendo. This is a well-earned achievement, and really, for all we know, there might never be another console that will put up these type of numbers. So just very, very impressive. Big congrats to Nintendo. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification, and peace out.